Hi everyone, thanks for checking in today. It's Adam Coburn here from Low & Co Realty. We are looking today at the Wellington marketplace, comparing the hard Wellington data for April 2023 compared to the last couple of years. In summary, folks, Wellington values remain stable. New listings continue to be very tight, but sales volumes also still remain low. My message to buyers has been consistent for quite a number of months now, and that is get amongst it. Don't wait for things to improve. I think there's a good strong risk that they will not get any better in terms of buying conditions, and there's a real risk that buying conditions could get worse, could deteriorate for you from here. So let's get into the detail. Median sale price, $797,000 in April 2023 versus $930 a year ago. That's down 14%. 14% is quite a big drop, but it's not big compared to what we've seen over the last 12 months or so. And you look at the graph there, the shape of the graph tells it all. The blue bar chart is the monthly results, and you can see it's been really quite stable since about July 2022, so approaching 12 months now, where the median sale price has been quite stable. If you follow these videos, you know I don't really pay too much attention to the median sale price because that's a reflection as much of the types of properties that are sold during the month as opposed to their underlying values. What we're really interested in, of course, is the underlying values, not the mix of property types sold. And the best way to get a gauge of that is the Real Estate Institute House Price Index. So let's now have a look at that. So here you see the table summarising the whole of the country. You can see there that New Zealand values overall have dropped 17.5% since their peak. Wellington is leading the charge at almost 25%. Auckland is catching up though at nearly 23%, and the rest of the country has fallen less than Auckland and Wellington pretty much across the country, but still dropping, whereas Wellington values, as we will see in a second, have really stopped falling. So let's now have a look at a bit more of this granular data. So you see there the Wellington region house price index in the last month, that's the month of April, no change at all. And in the 3 months to April, so February, March, April, a drop of less than 1% across those whole 3 months, 16% for the year, and over the last 5 years, of course, 5.5%. So values dropped almost by 10% in the 3 months to May 2022. As you can see there in the graph, the orange line shows the 3-month results, and look there at May 2022, we're almost down 10% for that 3-month period alone. Since then, the degree to which values have dropped in a 3-month period has consistently recovered back to where we are now, which is basically no change whatsoever, with a bit of a dip around the new year in January or so. So reasonably consistently headed from drop of 10% in a year ago, almost a year ago, to going completely sideways in the 3 months to April of this year. So Wellington values really quite stable. And if you look there at the Wellington City results, you can see that we're actually going up in the last month and even in the last 3 months. Very, very slight increase at 0.3%. Is that even statistically significant? Probably not, is what I would guess. But it does continue to support the idea and what I've been saying, which is the Wellington prices or Wellington values have been stable, broadly stabilising since July last year, and Wellington City has been leading the charge and is more stable than the region overall. And you can see that again if you look at the Porirua, Upper Hutt and Lower Hutt numbers there. They've fallen faster over the last year than Wellington City has. That doesn't mean they have fallen less. They are just now falling faster than Wellington City has been, because Wellington City fell earliest and fell fastest. Moving on now to the number of new listings. So 461 came to the market in Wellington region in April versus 715 and 725, April 2022 and 2021 respectively. These are big drops, so we are seeing about a third fewer listings come to the market in the city. So new listings remain very tight in the Wellington marketplace. And if you look here at the next graph, which shows the relative movements in that month, or the new listings in that month compared to 12 months ago, the blue bar chart there, when you see it below the x-axis, that means we're seeing fewer listings than a year ago, and really quite significantly below and consistently significantly less than a year ago for the last 8 months. We're seeing consistently 25 to 45% fewer listings than 12 months prior. So a sign that vendors are really pulling back and have been really pulling back from the market, so a lot of vendors that would normally consider listing have not been doing so. So for buyers out there, the market is remaining reasonably constrained in terms of selection of new listings coming to the market, so a bit frustrating for buyers. The number of sales taking place, reasonably similar sort of story. 460 sales in April versus 527 a year ago and 787 2 years ago. So 13% down on a year ago and a massive 42% down on 2 years ago. 2 years ago, perhaps slightly unusual, a lot of sales taking place there. As you can see from the shape of the graph, we did hit a peak sort of late 2020, early 2021, and the number of sales has been gradually, consistently falling away since then. And we are now at, kind of on the 6-month average basis at least, the lowest levels of sales that we've seen taking place since I started grabbing this data in early 2015. Again, if you look at this next graph, you can see we've been consistently selling fewer deals than 12 months prior since kind of the middle of 2021, with a couple of exceptions. Over the last 6 months or so, the degree to which we were selling fewer did consistently recover up to March of this year. That's March 2023, almost back to parity with 12 months prior to that. But in the month of April, we did see a recent deterioration, back down by 13% compared to a year ago. And so is that a change? Is that a reversal in what we saw reasonably consistently in the prior sort of 5 months or so? One data point, not enough to call a trend, but it'll certainly be interesting to see next month what that shows. So in summary, we were seeing the number of sales compared to 12 months prior recover back to parity, but in April we saw a fresh deterioration back down again. So let's see what next month's data shows us. How long is it taking to sell property? It's still taking longer than it was, 12 months ago, although not by an awful lot. 52 days versus 48 days last April, and 30 days back to April 2021. So certainly quite a lot longer than 2 years ago, but overall relatively stable in the last 12 months with a few big ups and downs. We did see quite a big peak a couple of months ago, sort of January and February of this year. We've dropped back down from those recent peaks, back down to sort of around the 50, 52 days in the last couple of months. Inventory, this is the number of weeks that it would take to sell all property on the market if things continued to sell at the same rate and no new property came on. So 17 weeks in April this year versus 21 a year ago and 5 weeks 2 years ago. Back there 2 years ago, the market was unbelievably tight. 5 weeks is about as low as it ever got. So that was certainly unusual times. So 17 weeks, actually less inventory than a year ago. And interestingly, 17 weeks is only just slightly more inventory than the long-term average for the Wellington region. So over the last kind of few months, we have been back to quite normal inventory levels in Wellington. So on that basis, we're sitting in a reasonably balanced kind of a market. How many listings are we seeing on Trademe? And this is not new listings, this is the overall supply of stock on the market. So 2550 as of today when I'm recording this, versus 2953 a year ago and 1186 2 years ago. So compared to a year ago, we're now seeing actually quite a significant drop in the amount of listings on the market. So this is quite a change over the last 2 or 3 months that we've seen. So 14% fewer listings than a year ago, although we're still at more than double the listings we saw 2 years ago. Also, you see the shape of that graph, you'll see that overall, again with a few seasonal ups and downs, the number of new listings in Wellington region on Trademe has been bouncing around that kind of 2,500 to 3,000 quite consistently for over a year now. So we're certainly not seeing the amount of supply on the market overall growing anymore like we did see very aggressively sort of late 2021 through to the first half of 2022. So again, you can see that in the next graph, the change there. So the blue bar graph above the x-axis shows that we had more listings on Trademe than 12 months prior, and for the last couple of months we have seen fewer listings, and the degree to which we are seeing fewer has been getting deeper. So again, as I say, 14% fewer listings in May as of now than approximately a year ago. So folks, in summary, the Wellington values remain pretty stable, in particular over the last 3 months, really going pretty much sideways. New listings volumes have been consistently low since September 2022. Sales volumes have been recovering on a relative basis for 4 or 5 months now, although we have had recent weakness in April. Too early to tell whether that's a new trend or not. The duration to sell remains longish, but down on recent peaks. Inventory is at roughly normal levels over the last few months. Trademe listings are stable and lower than a year ago. The Wellington market has been stabilising since July 2022 and now is really quite stable according to this data. And my message to buyers continues to be, take advantage of these opportunities while you can. If you can buy, do not wait for things to get better. Thanks for checking in. It's Adam at Low & Co here. See you next month. Thanks.